All right, we are recording. This is the Network Plumbing Working Group meeting for Thursday, November 8th, 2018. As always, if you don't happen to have the link to the agenda, I will toss that in chat. Fung had something. I added a whole bunch of other stuff, but other than that, it might end up being a not full hour meeting today, which is good.
All right.
All right, so Fung, you're up.
All right. So our current meeting time is not particularly friendly to Asia time zone, European time zone, or even really Eastern time zone in particularly. So I'm wondering if I don't see a lot of people from Pacific time zone joining regularly anyway. So I was wondering if it would make sense for us to change our time to make it more friendly for some other people maybe to join. Perhaps in the morning time in Eastern time, so that it's in the afternoon in Europe and early evening or mid-evening for Asia. Would that be better?
+1 to me.
I'm sure, Tomo. What time is it for you again, Tomo?
Yeah, thanks.
It's the now it's 7 a.m.
7 a.m. for you? Okay.
Yep. So they're just before the daylight saving time. There's 6 a.m. So it's a 2 hour.
But if we move it to the morning, wouldn't that be like midnight for you or something like that, maybe?
Yeah, probably. But so to me, I have the several meeting at this time slot. So
okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, what does everybody else think? I think in general, morning schedules tend to be a little bit more booked.
Sure.
Does anyone have time in the mornings on Thursdays?
Personally, I would find it much easier because this is 10 p.m. for UK time. But equally, I might be selling the pass here, but I appreciate we might just be caught on the fact that we want to get both people in the US, people in the East, and people in the UK, and that's quite a wide range. So,
yeah, I probably could. I have a feeling that it wouldn't be too hard to move my Multis meeting, seeing that I'm on with those guys on this call.
Right.
Time of day, so I would highly consider morning time Thursdays.
I could do morning also. I assume it's Pacific or East West Coast morning.
How about does 9:30 a.m. on Thursdays Eastern work for you, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. That's the meeting that Doug is talking about.
Yeah.
That he has. Yeah, I mean, that works for me. I'm also in that meeting.
Can we perhaps just propose that? And if nobody, we might have a few other people to ask, but
yeah, I mean, I think we should probably, if everybody on the call right now thinks that time works for them, then let's kind of bring it up next meeting, see if we have a different group, maybe also send it out to the SIG network list, see if anybody has some comments there. And then if we can get Corral to move that meeting, Doug, then that would also clear out a bunch of time for some of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this has been a recurring thing both for this meeting as well as SIG Network. So let's give it a shot again.
Right.
Okay. Fung, do you want to take the action item to send to SIG Network list? Are you on that list?
Sure.
Okay.
I am on that list. I will send it out.
All right. Let's see what we think.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks. All right. Next topic. I basically gave up on the Kubernetes community PR. I just went off and created my own GitHub org for this group and created a repo for the specification and dumped the specification in 4 different formats into that repo. So my intent here is that that repo will hold the official versions of the specs. We'll still work on the spec, as a Google Doc, and then whenever we get to a point where we actually want to make an official release of the spec, I guess, then we will dump it into that repo. We could also put other things there. It's a non-commercial GitHub repo, so I don't think we can make private repos or some of that other stuff that actually costs money. But we could also host code there. So some of the other things I was thinking of were, and unfortunately Corral is not on this call because it's probably pretty late for him, but perhaps the admission controller that does some of the minimal verification of the configuration JSON, that could potentially go into that organization in a new repo there. Basically just a place to host some of the components, specifications, and bits that we develop in this group. So
I'll give a big +1 to that. I think that the admission controller is a great start and could be useful for anything that implements the spec. What a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, and I've sent out some invites on that just so I'm not the only person who is responsible for that particular group. I think a number of people on this call have gotten those invites to that organization. It's not meant to be an exclusive GitHub org, but for the moment we need at least some admin and that kind of stuff. So we'll just kind of ride with it as is and see where we get with that. And I think that's about it. Also, it might be good to host some other documentation there, like goals of the network plumbing working group and some of that kind of general organizational stuff. Probably would be good there, as well as things like meeting schedule and links to the agenda doc and things like that. So if anybody wants to do some PRs against that repo to put that information in, that would be good. And actually, come to think of it, we should probably just have a new repo in that organization that contains most of the kind of management and administration documentation rather than trying to stuff that into the multi-network spec repo in that org. If nobody else gets around a PR, I will probably slowly get there. But that's about it for that. Next up is, I just had a quick question from Peter on the source-based routing plugin. I saw that he joined the call, and so I added that very quickly.
Yeah, so let me apologize. I haven't had a chance to do very much on that. I have actually, so there was some feedback about tidying up afterwards correctly. Yep. So I wrote some code for that. I tested it, it didn't work, and then I got dragged onto another project.
Okay.
So let me say I'll get something that is ready for review within the next 2 weeks. So by the time we have the next meeting, so I'll fight my way out from what the other things I'm doing and just get that done, because I don't think there's actually a lot of work to be done there. It's just a case of cracking on and doing it. So I'll promise to crack on and do it. Okay, awesome, thanks. And I just was curious on that. I saw you in person on the call, so I felt okay. Yeah, that's fine. I hate these things dragging on. Yeah, it's always best to get them done and tidied up. So let me commit to doing that. Okay, awesome, thanks. All right, and I think upstream in the CNI maintainers meetings, we're generally positive on that. We just wanted to see some of that, those kind of small updates first. So I didn't want to just kind of leave that plugin in limbo. I wanted to make sure that we kind of kept moving that forward. So thanks for that. Sure. All right. The other thing, next thing, conformance test plan update. I was just wondering if there is any thoughts or anything else that has been done over the last month or so, 6 weeks on that.
I can't say that I've done anything. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was starting to work on that, but I have gotten totally swamped on my top priority project.
All right. Just curious on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we are starting to focus a little more on testing on Motus. So we should be able to contribute a number of test cases to it as well. We should be able to do that at this point. Okay.
I think we also needed some framework and code to be written for that, which that's kind of still work outstanding. I had thought that maybe Michael Cambria could help out with some of that. I notified him of this call a little bit too late for him to join, I think.
Mhm.
But we'll see what he says on that. I didn't want to say, just kind of drop it in his lap if he had other things to do at that point. So we'll see what he says, but he might be able to help out on this.
Okay. I'm also hoping that we don't need to do too much on writing a program and automating it just yet. Let's focus on thinking about what should be properly tested first.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, the thing that kind of brought this back into my mind was, and here he is, Devil. We'll join in just a second. The thing that brought that back into my mind was the Multus interface request interface thing. And some of the changes that Toma had done to Multus to bring it more into conformance with the spec. And if there was some kind of nice framework that at least verified some of these things, then
that is true.
That would be good to have to make sure that implementations like Multus or CNI Genie or anything else that happens to implement the spec would be able to, determine that they actually conformed to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
All right, we'll just kind of let that one simmer in the background for the moment.
Okay.
Unless anybody else has anything to add on that one. If not, all right. Next up was, I just kind of tossed this one on. I'd done a little bit of thinking about it. And this is one of the items from the V2 considerations document. And I just decided to kind of toss out a proposal for it. The issue is around the Kubernetes runtime specific or pod specific config options that it has built-in support for. And those two things are at this point the bandwidth shaping annotation that you can put on a pod as well as the port mappings. And what Kubernetes does, or the runtimes actually do, is they translate that into some CNI runtime config options that they can get passed to the network plugin. There was a issue with Multus where, or not an issue necessarily, but a PR for Multus that took these options and passed them to all of the plugins for all of the network attachments. And I wasn't sure that that was necessarily correct, since you may or may not want the same bandwidth shaping on every single network attachment. So I decided to throw out this proposal to say that these options that Cube passes should be specific to the default cluster network, because that's kind of how they're treated today if you don't use a CNI delegating plugin like Multus. But then recognizing the need for something like that potentially for the secondary sidecar networks and additional attachments, perhaps we should add some support for that to the extended format network attachment selection annotation, similar to how we have interface, MAC, and some of the IP stuff as well.
Yeah, this makes sense to me. Just one question. Do we want to gather all this stuff under some key that's specific to, extensions or something like that, or just have it flat inline like you've got?
Yeah, we could put it under some other key. It would mean two options there. We could put all of them under one key, since they're all sort of things that apply to a given attachment, or we could keep tossing them into the top level annotation. I think either one is probably okay.
Are you imagining right now that there's a fixed set of these?
Well, currently there is, at least according to the spec. I think all other values are reserved. I am not sure if I said something or if I wrote something in the spec about allowing vendor namespaced stuff or not. I know there was some discussion around that where plugins might want to add optional things there.
Yeah, I think this is actually consistent with the way we're doing everything else and the way CNI is doing it. So this is probably the right way to do it.
So yeah, section 4121 of the spec says that all key names that do not include a period character are reserved to ensure the specification may be extended in the future. Implementations that write keys other than those defined in the specification must use reverse domain name notation, e.g. org.foo.bar key name to name non-standard keys. So yeah, it does allow non-standard keys in the selection. But I think your point, Mike, is well taken, that there's probably other things we would add, and so maybe we should put them into a subkey. I don't have strong feelings on that, though.
Well, the other question that occurs to me on this is, the whole point here is to get translated into CNI invocation.
Mm-hmm.
So, which makes it easier which makes that translation easier?
Honestly, doesn't really matter whether it's a sub-level, underneath the main, or whether it's directly in the top level. Basically, the plugin would just pluck that subdict out of the top level one and pass it directly in.
You mean flatten it into the rest of it?
Well, I mean, what would happen is if in the example that I have listed in the agenda doc, for example, port mappings, it would be a top level key and then it has a map below it. That entire thing would probably be translated to just a string interface in Go. And then you could just take that entire key and shove that into the runtime config of the CNI JSON that gets sent to the plugin. So I don't think it would be a big change at all for it. It could just get lifted and shoved in without too much difference. And if we put it into a subkey, same thing. You just go one level down to the subkey and then pull out port mappings, bandwidth, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I guess at this point it seems like, I don't have a strong opinion either. I mean, I guess I don't know, I brought it up, but maybe I shouldn't have, because we've got a syntactic carve out here already, so that's probably good enough.
Okay. Well, if does anybody else have thoughts on this? I mean, it seems like we're sort of lukewarm on, or mildly positive on this kind of thing. And if nobody has any huge objections, I'm happy to try to write this up into a more formal addition to the specification. And then
I like where Mike is coming from, that, if these were ever growing, it'd be kind of nice to wrangle them up, but it's already difficult enough to type in the JSON annotation that I like not having to type in another level of key. So I kind of like that part of it. So yeah, I'm okay to have it written up. Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Shall do that. And the last item, Doug, KubeCon meetup.
Yeah, this was just a quick one to say whoever is going to KubeCon, we should try to meet up. I believe we'll have one more meeting. Hopefully, tell me our next meeting is on Thanksgiving. It's not. It's the week before. Okay, cool. So let me
say that again, Doug.
Sorry about that.
It is on Thanksgiving.
Our next meeting is on Thanksgiving? Oh, man. Okay, well, so then that means I guess we won't have another meeting before KubeCon. So
no, actually, we should have one the week before KubeCon.
Okay, we'll have one the week before KubeCon.
Yep.
Awesome. All right.
The next meeting would usually be the 22nd, but that's a national holiday for the U.S. For anybody who's not from the U.S. on this call. And then the meeting after that would be the 6th. And then that following weekend and the week after that is KubeCon.
All right. So
I have seen meetings the week before KubeCon get canceled for the sake of people traveling.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think we should probably hold one on the 6th anyway for anybody who can make it. Not have any heavy agenda topics, but just at least some quick coordination and solidification for anybody who's going to KubeCon, or you kind of wrap up topics.
Right, but anyway, let's talk now about the meetup. I think we should have one. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have one. I just threw that on the agenda for brainstorming purposes. I wish that I was coming to you guys with, hey, I've got like a place and a time and all that stuff, but I figured if I surface it now and I'll try to think about this a bit and, you know, we can try to find a spot because it would be really nice if nothing else to be able to shake some hands and say thanks to everyone for all the work that they've put in on this over the last year. But it would be kind of nice if we could go over V2 considerations again, kind of look at like some ballpark roadmap and stuff like that. I think it would be really great.
Yeah, agreed on that. Are there any days that work better for anybody? I mean, I'm not sure which ones actually work for me, so that was a pretty useless question for me to ask. But
So not Monday, probably not Tuesday. Maybe maybe, and probably not even Thursday, right? Because people are probably gonna leave on Thursday.
Trying to leave.
I'm headed out Thursday afternoon, so
Right. So maybe Wednesday.
Wednesday looks good for my obligations at the moment.
Well, Wednesday is the conference, confab. I mean, in the evening. I mean, want to try something during the day during the
Yeah.
sessions time.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I haven't examined the sessions in detail. Someone's going to have to put up a doodle poll or something to find a time that works at least bad.
Doug, do you want to take that action item?
I will be the doodle poller. That is a great idea. Yeah, happy to do that.
Okay, cool. All right. And last topic, next meeting, 22nd. Should we cancel that meeting and punt to the 6th of December? I feel like the answer is yes.
Yes,
I
works
think
for me.
that's yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I have updated that. All right. Any other topics? And actually, I see Michael Cambria has joined. Michael, do you just want to introduce yourself really quick? Michael's works on my team at Red Hat, and he is working on a lot of CNI related stuff. So it seemed kind of perhaps useful for him to join this meeting as well. Michael, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
How's this?
A little bit quiet, but at least we can hear it.
Hi.
Sorry. This any better?
A little.
It'll do.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Headset's going back to Amazon. I've been around the networking space since the mid 80s and looking forward to getting involved with Multis and Kubernetes.
All right. Awesome.
All right. Yeah. Welcome.
Well, thanks, Michael.
Thanks.
All right. Any other topics that anybody has to talk about or anything else? We can see it's very dark where Mike is at.
I just don't have good lighting set up here to make a good television studio.
Well, you should get right on that. All right. Well, if that is it, we will say goodbye until December 6th.
All right, catch you guys on the 6th. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Happy holidays, everybody.
All right.
Yep.
All right,
Take
have
care.
a good Thanksgiving and
Yep.
bye.
Bye.